Now, as part of the last step, we want to display all the top posters for a given channel, all of the individuals who have posted the most in a given channel. So back in our messages component, we're going to head up to the add message listener function and execute a new function that we'll create called count user posts, and it'll take all the loaded messages. We can add this new function anywhere, but I'll head down to count unique users and add count user posts underneath. So count user posts will take the accumulated array of messages for each channel, and we'll create a variable called user posts which will store the return value of iterating over this messages array with the reduce method, and the accumulator for reduce will be initially set to an empty object, not an empty array. We'll loop over every message. We'll first check to see within the body of reduce whether there's a property on the accumulated object with the name of the current message username. If so, we're going to take the object that this username property is set equal to and increment its count property by 1. Otherwise, we're going to add a new object onto the accumulated object with the property name of the username who created the message, and this will have a property of avatar, the user's avatar, as well as a count of 1, since this is the first time finding a message with the given username. And then at the end we'll return the accumulator, and then we want to log the object that's stored within user posts. So if we take a look at our console after the page loads, we can see for the channel that we're currently on, we get an object with a number of properties, each set equal to a username, with an avatar value and a count value set equal to the count of messages that they've added to a given channel. So this is what we'll use within the meta panel to display the top posters. But instead of just logging this object, we want to put it on global state so the meta panel can make use of it. So we'll create a new action which will execute called set user posts. It'll take that user post object. We'll create a type for it within the types file called set user posts, and that'll be equal to a string of the same name. And now to create a function within the index file of our actions folder, once again this will be called set user posts. It'll take some user post data and it's going to return an object first with the type from action types.set user posts, and then the payload, and it'll have just a property name of user posts with the value of user posts. Then within our reducers folder, we're going to add another property to initial channel state, user posts set equal to null initially. We'll add a new case to our channel reducer of action types.set user posts, where we'll return an object where we spread all of the initial values of state and update only the user posts property to action.payload.userPosts. So now we can make use of this new action on our props object, but to put it there for our messages component, we need to grab the connect function from React Redux and we'll import our action, set user posts. And we'll head down to the bottom to execute our connect function to make our new action available within the messages component. So map state to props will be set to null, and we'll pluck off set user posts from map dispatch to props. We'll save all of our files. We'll head back to our app. If we take a look at our Redux tools, we take a look at our channel property of state, we should see an updated user posts property containing all of the values that we had before logged to our console. Now that we're putting our user post object on global state, we're going to head to app.js and use map state to props to get the current value of user post from state.channel.userPosts and pass it down once again by destructuring user posts from the app props down to the meta panel component. So now we'll head to meta panel and we'll receive this directly from props instead of putting it on state. We'll pluck user post off from the props object. Then we'll head down to the accordion content for our top posters area. We'll first check to make sure that we have a value for user posts, and if so, we'll execute a function called display top posters, which will pass the user post object to. So we'll create this new function above our render. So display top posters will take the posts, and to make this object easier to work with, we'll use the function object.entries. So it'll accept our post object that we're passing to it, and just to display how object.entries works, we'll create a simple object stored by the variable a, with a couple of properties. What object.entries does is it'll take this object and convert both the key for an object as well as its value to its own array and put that within an array. So in the end, when we pass an object to object.entries, we'll have an array of arrays, so we can use any array method we like with it. The first array method that we can make use of is sort. So sort takes a function with parameters a and b, and if we take b of the index of 1 minus a of the index of 1, we can compare the count value of each of the top posters and show them in descending order from greatest count of posts to least count of posts. Then we can use the map method, and within the parameters of map we can destructure the key and value for each of the elements of the array and then use them in the markup that we'll output in order to display all of our top posters. So the component that we'll need is the list component from Semantic UI. And we'll actually wrap our conditional, where we have user posts and our display top posters function, in a list component. And then back within display top posters, we'll iterate over a list item. So the key prop for the list item will be set to the index of the current element we're iterating over. So we can also grab the index, even though we're destructuring key and value from the parameters of map. Then within the list item, we'll add an image component, the prop of avatar, and a source of val.avatar. Then we'll have a list content component, and within that will be a list header. We'll make that as an a tag, the content of key, so the key will be the name of the top poster, and then a list description with value val.count and the text of posts to get the total count of posts that they've added to a given channel. So if we take a look at that, we can see a given user, their name, their avatar, and the number of posts that they've contributed. If we switch to a different channel, we can see we just have one poster here, since there's only one user who's added posts to this React channel. And then finally at the end, if we want to limit the number of top posters to a specific amount, we can use the slice method and say get only the first 5 top posters. Say if we have more than 5 elements within our array. And lastly, if we want to handle the case that we're incorrectly formatting this post value, if sometimes we need to provide a text of post if the number of posts is singular, or plural if there's multiple posts, or 0, we can create this format count function, which takes the val.count amount, and we'll first check to see if the number that it takes is greater than 1 or equal to 0. If so, we want to use posts plural, otherwise posts singular for the text. So now if we take a look at the top posters, you can see that if we have multiple posts for a given user, it's plural, and if we just have one post, it's singular.